Hello everybody and welcome to another Doctor Who review. This time it's a Big Finish audio adventure. The 8th Doctor Paul McGann stars in Invaders from Mars. As always, we'll go through the cast and crew in a minute and some of the good bits, bad bits of the story. But first of all, let's get on with the plot. It's New York 1938. The mob led by Don Chaney has found alien technology of an alien spaceship that's crashed in New Jersey. They are wanting to cannibalize the technology and then sell it on to the CIA. Cosmo Devine has leanings towards the Nazi Party and wants the technology to sell on to the Germans. The Doctor and Charlie come into this in the middle of this fight between the two of them, and it's very quickly the Doctor realises that the technology is alien and needs to be recovered. In the meantime though, Charlie is taken by Devine, thinking that she is a rival to the whole operation. Also, another alien ship lands in New York and happens to be two scientists from that world who are coming to get their missing ship, which happened to be a breeding ship. All within this, Orson Welles is about to do his famous reading of the radio play version of War of the Worlds. And as it turns out, the night the aliens arrive is the night that Welles reads his famous script, causing panic. Lovely cover for Everything Ensues. The Doctor gets the aliens to take their technology and fools them to thinking that their world is under attack by Martians, using Wells's radio broadcast to dupe them. The aliens end up being destroyed by Professor Strathshine, who happened to be working with Don Chaney to try and extract some of the technology to make an atom bomb. The Professor has been successful and manages to let the bomb off on the alien spaceship as they leave. Okay, that is the plot synopsis for this story. Let's go through some of the main cast and some of the comments about it as well. So we start, of course, with the Doctor, played by Paul McGann. This one definitely is Paul McGann in full flow. The 8th Doctor here is really just having a lot of fun. I mean, he's just basically a spectator, and he knows what's happening. He understands, when he realises it's 1938, he's just having a laugh, really. And yes, he is there to try and make sure the right hand's getting the right technology so things don't change, and there's that element and jeopardy to it. But it's just a fun romp for him, and McGann just plays it brilliantly, and it works really well. And it's really nice to see. We've then got India Fisher playing Charlie. You get the spunkiness of Charlie here, but she's really kind of slightly perils of Pauline. She's just taken aside half the time and doesn't really get much to do. It's a bit of a disappointment, really, because obviously India Fisher does a good turn as Charlie normally, and she's kind of sidelined because there's lots of other characters in this and lots of other players. It's actually quite a large company, and I'll get to that in a minute. We then have some of the guest cast. Ian Hallard playing Mouse, Winkley, Luigi, and a Heavy. So there's multiple roles there. The best one is Mouse, with his kind of high-pitched mobster, yeah boss, sort of idea, which is really nice. We then have Mark Benham playing Ellis, one of the main lower mobsters who actually happens to betray Chaney to help Cosmo Devine and regrets it later. Very well played as a big heavy, really, of the mobster lot. Quite fun to listen to. We then have Jonathan Rigby, who plays John Houseman, the thug and Dreith. So Houseman is the producer for Oscar Wilde's radio play, and I thought it was Martin Jarvis, but the character's nice, the character's interesting, but you know, I thought it was Martin Jarvis. It isn't. It's Jonathan Rigby. Quite a nice little character, kind of British kind of sound to him as well, which is an interesting take on it. We then have David Benson playing Orson Welles and Professor Strathshine, which is an interesting character overall. The Professor's come out a Russian agent and is found out by one of his fellow Russian spies who catches him. He wants to use the technology really for kind of gain, but in a good way, I suppose. Houseman's interesting. Orson Welles has been well played by David Benson as well. It's a young Orson Welles, and they play on that fact he's a young actor, a budding actor. They give the perfectionist element of Orson Welles, which he came across with in his later stuff, and it really is well presented here. Quite like the way Welles is presented. We then have Simon Pegg playing Don Chaney and one of the random actors. That's quite fun. Quite like that. It's quite fun having that kind of character there, and he plays it, you know, kind of like the big mafia boss, which is quite nice. And I like the way that he's reasonable with the Doctor, and the Doctor tries to get them all on the side. I think it's quite nice to see. We then have Jessica Stevenson playing Glory B. Clara, the secretary to Bix Biro, who is the owner of the CBS station, a radio station which Wells is doing his broadcast for, and yeah, it's quite a nice little turn there. We then have John Arthur playing Cosmo Devine. Quite a nice role as well. It really is a nice little role he's played. I quite like the way the character portrayed in this one. It's really quite nice. Got Bix Biro played Paul Patner, which is really that's a nice little role. This kind of, he's got a small role really, but it's nice to see. And yeah, that's the cast. I'm not really going too much into the details of the characters and the cast really this time round, because it's such a big cast. You don't get much characterization outside the main two leads really. And even that is a stretch. It's such a massive cast in this one. It's very difficult to get any sort of character development for any of them. I mean, all the actors play a very good role, and I think it all works out. That's fine, but it's one of these mixed ones, really, when it comes to the way the story works out. There is one guest cast member I will mention. That's the reception guest was Katie Manning. She must have been in the building for the day and just decided to play a little cameo role, which is really quite fun, but it's forgettable. You don't really realise who you're talking about there until you saw the cast list. It's kind of, oh, is that Katie Manning? Oh, that's interesting. In regards to the story itself, it's a nice story. It's kind of parodying all the 20s and 30s mobster type things. It's also including the War of the Worlds element to it, which Mark Gatiss, the writer, has actually managed to weave in quite well. I quite like the fact that effectively these aliens come down at the time the famous broadcast of the Martians coming down on War of the Worlds, and the panic it actually happened. It's based on a real event, because there was actually a panic in America with the Martians coming down, because people didn't realise it was a radio play when they tuned in. So they played on that a little bit with the cover for the aliens coming down, which is really quite nice, and they used that as a nice little trick at the end. And the story itself goes along at a pace. It's very enjoyable and it works well for me. I think the direction works as well, because obviously Mark Gatiss has written and directed it, and I think he knew what he wanted, and it came across as that, and it's an enjoyable romp. But as I say, it doesn't have much for character development. There's a lot of characters in this one, and it really does detract a little bit from trying to build some sort of growth. You've got a little bit with Don Chaney, and you've got a little bit with Cosmo Devine, but you don't really get much of the characters there. It's really difficult to actually latch on to one particular character outside of the Doctor and Charlie in this one, and it kind of falls down on that respect in that way. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it. I think it's really quite good. And Alistair Locke's mix of 1930s with the kind of like this detective type sound that you get then mixing with some of his normal incidental music he does is really quite nice, and I quite like the way the music kind of sets the scene. It is an interesting romp, it's a fun romp, but it's one of these stories you can take or leave, and it's kind of you know, it's one of these difficult ones really to try and pin down exactly what's good and what's not. I mean, you have fun for the 2 hours you're listening to it, but it never comes across as something that's really deep or really well written or positioned. And I think that's the problem with radio plays. Sometimes you have too many characters, say with any drama, you have too many characters, you don't get time to develop them, and you don't get time to actually see much about them, and this is a story that does suffer from that as well. Don't get me wrong, the story's fun, it works for what it needs to do, but there's always something missing, which is a shame in these things when you get too many cast and characters. It's nice to have, you know, Simon Pegg and Jessica Stevenson in there, and obviously you've got Mark Benton as well. Quite a lot of different actors coming from the Space, because Space was going on at that time, the TV series. It's nice they all came together and had a bit of a laugh and a bit of fun with this. And it's a nice opener to the second season of Paul McGann Big Finish Audios, but it's very light-hearted. It doesn't really get into the detail of a character development in any way, and it's really just a bit of fun. It's a bit of a romp, really. Apart from that, though, I mean, I enjoyed it. I like listening to it, but it's not a strong story overall, because I think the characters are brought down, and I think you needed to maybe pare down the number of characters in this story, but you've got too many characters and too big an ensemble cast to do the characters, and I don't think it really works for that reason. It kind of suffers a little bit from that. Because of that, I'm going to give this a rating of, I was going to give it 3.5, but I'm actually going to be a bit more critical and actually just give it a 3 TARDIS out of 5 rating. Okay, let's see how that stacks up with the rest of the Big Finish audios I've reviewed so far. And Invaders and Mars sits in with The Land of the Dead and Winter for the Adept with 3 TARDISes out of 5. At the top is still The apocalypse element with 4.5 TARDISes out of 5. That's it from me. Let me know what you think about Invaders from Mars. Leave a comment down below. Do you like it? Leave a comment down below. Could you leave it and not bother about it? Is it one of these light stories, like I say, that's going to take your brain out and doesn't really do much? Leave a comment down below. If you like this video, please like it, share it with the hashtag teamstructor. Also hit that subscribe button and notifications bell so you know when a new video comes out if you like the channel as a whole. General rule, a new video every second Sunday at 4 PM GMT, but it is Who Month, so another video will be next week at 4 PM GMT. Hopefully you can join me for that. It is the Chimes of Midnight that's going to be really interesting to review, and hopefully it gets a high score. I have a funny feeling it might do. Anyway guys, thanks very much for watching and listening, and you know what? I'll see you later.